Breaking news as the French government has officially collapsed. This is the first time in 6 decades there's been an issue like this.
Our fellow Captain Ibrahim Traoré, he wants all the smoke. He's not here for games. You understand? President, what's his name, Macron? He thought that this was a game. He thought we were our forefathers. He thought we were out here shaking and scared because they were bucking at us. Like, hey, if you don't do this, they're gonna do this, do it. We are waiting for you. Do it. We want to see you do it.
Burkina Faso is making headlines across the world, and its young leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has taken a bold stance, one that shakes the foundation of France's influence in Africa. But why is he pushing France out of Burkina Faso? Watch and pay attention, and I'll share my thought later.
They try to take out Captain Traoré, people. They try to take him out. I'm scared for his safety. I'm worried. There is no way that a president should be in office for only 2 years and have 18 attempts on his life. I actually have to start asking questions about the security services in Burkina Faso. I have to start asking questions about the other Sahel Alliance countries, Mali and Niger. What are you doing to make sure that this is not happening? Because it's not happening to you people. There's a reason why this keeps happening to Captain Traoré. That's the reason why he must be protected. Because he's the driving force of what is happening with the liberation of West Africa and the Sahel region from neocolonialism. It's a fact. He's the man who's driving it with the master plan. And it rhymes. Listen, when a president has had 2 attempts on him, everything should get shaken up. Everything. People get sacked. Entire departments get gutted 18 times. That means that everybody's taking a shot.
That Europe is better than Africa is something that was put in your head by Europeans. But Africa has everything. Africa is super rich culturally, language-wise, food, resources. Everything is in Africa. Africans only need to take back control of their continent. I also met a girl from the Netherlands. She was also traveling. We met in Mauritania and then we met in Senegal and in Gambia. So we came across each other several times and we had these discussions several times. That we were always feeling guilty because people were hosting us. And we would love to say, I'm gonna host you when you come to Italy, when you come to Belgium. But people cannot come here.
Why not?
Because they don't get visas. Because of their color. And it's just bullshit. It's mind-blowing, this thing that people cannot just travel freely, because a lot of people I met, my age, they don't want to come to Europe to stay here. They just want to travel as I do, to see something different, to meet their friends or their family that live here already. But they cannot. And I had to call my mom and cry about it, because it's not fair.
The latest. Thank you for your love and support. A brand new city in Burkina Faso. Our all in all, our savior protector, the unifier, the most loved, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is building a brand new city in Burkina Faso. The West have always painted Africa poor. Africa do not have that. African cannot do this. But in actual sense, these people are the hindrance to our progress. They try to make sure that where we are, we never rise up by giving us leaders that cannot help us to progress. Now that we have found a very unique and a true son of the soil, we are seeing changes that is shocking the West themselves. Burkina Faso, as these people projected it as a poorest nation, that they are the ones giving us aid, and the Burkinabès are surviving, and all Africans are surviving because of the aid that they give to us. The true leaders are showing them the difference. Something that they have never imagined is about to happen in Burkina Faso. This city is an amazing, beautiful, and wonderful. The West have to now understand that coming to exploit us, taking the natural resources that we have, is what is making us poor. It's what is making us not to develop. If we don't control the natural resources that will generate the revenue for us to develop, how do we develop? That's the latest around the world. In Africa, West Africa, and in Burkina Faso.
Under the resolute leadership of President Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso is not merely planning a city. It is signaling the end of Western dominance and the rise of African sovereignty. The Renaissance city is more than just bricks and mortar. It is a revolution, a giant middle finger to the West, a declaration that Africa doesn't need foreign aid, approval, or influence. Africa will build its future, and the West can do nothing.
No one can blame Africans for assuming that the rest of the world has very little interest in their continent, except maybe for extracting natural resources like gold and oil, or buying weapons and counterterrorism. Former U.S. President George W. Bush famously referred to it as a nation instead of a continent with 54 very diverse countries, each with its own unique interests in history. President Trump had awful things to say about Africa.
For too long, the West has profited from Africa's resources, labor, and ingenuity, all while spreading false narratives of saving the continent. But those days are numbered. As the Renaissance City project takes shape in Burkina Faso, it stands as a beacon of African ambition and defiance.
Burkina Faso's military ruler, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has opened the West African nation's first state-owned bank. The bank, named the Treasury Deposit Bank, was officially opened in the capital Ouagadougou on Friday, August 2nd. Traoré said the bank will be closer to the people and will contribute to the country's socio-economic development through a more appropriate method of financing projects and programs. The transitional president urged both the public and the private sectors to make use of this bank to participate in the collective construction of a sovereign economy. The bank's key objectives are three: to provide infrastructure financing, to support local businesses' financial needs, and to support the development of Burkina Faso's growth sectors, with agriculture being a key growth driver. Until now, Burkina Faso is a member of the Central Bank of West African States, which issues currencies and manages monetary policy for member nations of the West African Monetary Union, WAMU. WAMU member states are 8. They are Benin, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Togo. The Central Bank of West African States has the exclusive right to issue banknotes and coins through WAMU member countries, which share the West African franc common currency. Burkina Faso's banking and financial sectors has approximately 16 banks and is the third largest among WAMU member states, behind Côte d'Ivoire and Senegal. Despite insecurity in recent years, the banking sector in Burkina Faso is relatively profitable and well capitalized. However, credit is highly concentrated among a few clients and few sectors of the economy, with an estimated 15% of the population owning bank accounts. Traoré, who has led Burkina Faso since the coup of September 2022, has pulled his country out of the West African regional bloc ECOWAS and also mounted anti-French sentiments. It remains to be seen whether the latest unveiling of the Treasury Deposit Bank would move Burkina Faso, a country of 23 million people, away from the Central Bank of West African States. In 1972, Mauritania, which was once a WAMU member state, withdrew from the Central Bank of West African States and created its own currency.
Burkina Faso would have been one of the most beautiful countries in Africa had Sankara lived long. The man who said to his people, "Here is the land, you must produce for the government and produce for yourself." Sankara, who loved education. Sankara, who gave our people health care. Sankara, who knew that there will never be total liberation of people if women are not liberated themselves. Sankara, who knew that a political activist must be equipped with theory of politics, because a soldier with a gun without political theory is a potential criminal. That's why political education is always important.
Anyone that has come across Julius Malema's speech as an African, one way or the other, you will be inspired by what comes out of his mouth, because Julius Malema is not just a politician as many people see him. Though you may not like his way, he may not be 100% good or your own taste, but we can't dispute the fact that Julius Malema loves Africa, and he's one of those people that has come to restructure Africa. I love his ideology about Africa, and he has inspired me a lot To be honest, he has inspired me a lot. Anytime I come across his speech, I always pay attention. And this one right here is legendary. Like, he said that we should support Burkina Faso, we should support Captain Ibrahim Traoré. I want you to listen to this.
There will never be a discussion about the security and good governance in Africa without acknowledging the damage that has been caused by colonizers and the imperialist forces. Africa's inability to be peace with herself, it is necessitated by the fact that colonialists want to exploit our minerals without being held accountable. It is the colonialists who are corrupting the leadership of Africa and making sure that those who are not corrupt are replaced by the corrupt puppets who will allow colonialism to continue in the African continent. Any battle you can imagine anywhere in the continent, it has got everything else to do with those who colonized us before. Today, they want to choose who are the leaders for African people. As we stand here today, Gaddafi should be an enemy of our people, according to the declaration of the Western imperialism, because Gaddafi stood for our people. Today, Mugabe, who was a darling, if you think Mandela was loved, you must revisit your history and check when Mugabe was becoming the president of Zimbabwe after the defeat of Rhodesia. He was the most celebrated man. He was loved by everybody until he started questioning the issue of the land, that the land must be transferred from the colonizer to the people of Zimbabwe. But when he was not advocating for that, especially after the Lancaster resolution, they thought he's one such a gentleman who will allow them to do as they wish, until he realized that he was going to pass on without transferring the means of production into the hands of our people. Today, every African leader who served for a very long time in Africa, we are told is a fascist, is undemocratic, this person is a dictator. But such words were never said about Queen Elizabeth, who ruled for more than 50 years. And it's not just monarchy, like a Zulu monarchy or Abatembu monarchy. It's a monarchy that has got powers on the political systems of Britain. There's no any prime minister in Britain who can proceed with anything else politically without the go-ahead of the Queen, now the King. No one of those prime ministers can declare a war. Only the Queen or the King can declare a war. But that person has never been democratically elected. That person has got no term of office. They serve until the grave, and they are not called fascists and dictators. They do so with our leaders because they want to impose on us the imperialist bourgeois democracy. That democracy is when you go for 5 years and you are done. But as young people who are engaged in this space, you have a duty to ask yourself, how did we govern ourselves in the earlier primitive society before the arrival of the colonialists? And we're not asking here of an ancient history. Very recent, you'll realize that we were able to govern ourselves without being dictated to by the white people in terms of how we must govern ourselves. Today, we must be told that a good governance is a governance that complies with IMF or World Bank. Anything else outside that, even if your people are benefiting, you are not a good leader. Actually, you are a dictator. Let's go back to Gaddafi himself before he was killed by imperialist forces. Gaddafi nationalized the oil industry when he took over Libya. And he made sure that the people of Libya receive free health care and housing. The people of Libya actually used to get a piece of land for getting married. That's why many of you remain single, because you realize there's going to be a problem here. Immediately when Gaddafi died, we saw Africans being taken by force in Libya as slaves, even post-colonial period. After Gaddafi died, Libya, which we're told it was under dictatorship and the most brutal man, has never known peace. It is under the group of warlords. It is under the group of terrorists, under the militia, and the people who are forcing themselves into power through a barrel of a gun. Today, one of the most unstable countries is DRC. Lumumba did not serve too long, because when Lumumba came in, they realized that this guy is going to create independence in the DRC, where the most strategic minerals are found. Since the passing of Lumumba till to date, DRC has never known peace. They will never know peace because those who are exploiting the resources of that area are the ones who are sponsoring the rebels in that area. They don't want authorities in DRC, because authorities will mean that we must also control the airspace of Libya. And when you control the airspace, you know which plane came in to do what and went out at what time. They are sponsoring rebels, doing land strips in the forests, where they land and take the minerals undetected and leave DRC. Today, DRC was supposed to be one of the most richest countries, but the imperialist forces will not allow it to be. So Sankara was killed. And when you think Sankara was killed by his friend, that one was just the one who pulled the trigger. But there are brains behind that man who pulled the trigger, who, by the way, was a friend of Sankara. Burkina Faso would have been one of the most beautiful countries in Africa had Sankara lived long. The man who said to his people, here is the land, you must produce for the government and produce for yourself. Sankara, who loved education. Sankara, who gave our people health care. Sankara, who knew that there will never be total liberation of people if women are not liberated themselves. Sankara, who knew that a political activist must be equipped with theory of politics, because a soldier with a gun without political theory is a potential criminal. That's why political education is always important. Sankara, who said, I'm not going to be part of borrowing money from IMF and the World Bank. So these leaders, I'm singling some of them out, because I want to demonstrate to you that those who seek good for us did not stay long. If you come to South Africa, Chris Sani's crime was not because he killed anyone, was not because he was mobilizing anyone. Chris was just speaking his mind. Not because he went to mobilize the people of Alexandra, not because he went to mobilize the people of Eastern Cape against what the negotiations was talking about. He just said, this is not what we went into the bush for. If we are going to take it through a barrel of a pen and we don't fight, then you must know we'll never realize that which we went to the bush for. And they realized that this man cannot be persuaded, not even by money. And they did not waste time. They finished him off. Because when we were negotiating for our democracy and thinking it's a peaceful transition from resistance to democracy, we actually found our leaders negotiating deals instead of negotiating for democracy. You need to go and do a research and ask yourself, when did the Vodafone deal come into South Africa? Vodafone. There were no cell phones. Vodafone was not here. Vodafone was negotiating with the apartheid regime just before the negotiations for democracy started. When the negotiators realized that, amongst other things, these people are talking about a wireless phone which is coming to South Africa, they stopped the negotiations and went to Vodafone. We are talking to wrong people. We are going to take over after these people. Come this side, and even if you insist on that deal with those people, when we come in, we are going to cancel that deal. Go and check out who were the black people who were part of a deal of Vodafone, what you call Vodacom today. And you must ask, once you know their names, then go and check what was their role in the negotiations. Then you will have an answer why we are where we are. They didn't have to kill them. They just have to corrupt them and give them the necessary resource to undermine the African struggle.
If you have been able to stay to this point, I want to thank you specially for listening and paying attention. Thank you for this, because I believe you have learned one thing or the other from the speech. Kindly leave out your opinion in the comment section. Don't also forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet to our channel. See you in the next video.
It seems history is about to repeat itself again, but fortunately the plan was stopped. Remember how Thomas Sankara was killed by France with the help of his closest friend, Blaise Compaoré? Well, it's the same tactic that external forces, most likely France, planned to use to overthrow President Traoré. But the plan was thwarted, fortunately. The interesting thing is that the man at the forefront of this plot was the former Burkina Faso military junta, Paul-Henri Damiba, who was deposed by Ibrahim Traoré. But what is even more shocking is the depth of the plot, which was not just about overthrowing President Traoré, but also causing destabilization in Burkina Faso. The result of the investigations after the plotters were caught by the Burkinabè forces would shock you deeply to the bones, and it will reveal how some Africans are the cause of the problems of the continent. Stay with us as we delve deeply into this destabilization plot. A few days ago, in a televised address, the Burkinabè Minister of Security Mahamadou Sana gave a detailed, intricate plan that was orchestrated by some citizens of Burkina Faso living in neighboring countries, including Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria. It seems these people are not happy that President Traoré is in power, and so they decided to put a plan that will remove him from power. According to the report given by the minister, the people involved in orchestrating this plot include some Burkinabè civilians, military personnel, and former military officials, all of whom are supported by Western intelligence agencies. Civil society actors and economic operators in Burkina Faso were also involved in the plot. The Burkinabè minister further revealed that several arrests have already been made and that the arrests took place in Niger. Now guess what? Among those individuals implicated in the plot was the former military junta of Burkina Faso, Paul-Henri Damiba, who was ousted from power in September 2022, as well as several prominent figures in Burkina Faso, including former ministers, journalists, and a former member of parliament. The calibers of people involved in this destabilization plot reveals how deep and wide the plot is. These people have been working behind the scenes for a while to remove President Traoré from power and take over the country. The fact that the former military junta is involved in this plot makes it even more shocking, because when he was deposed by Traoré, he seemed to have taken it gracefully and he stepped down quietly. But with his involvement in this plot, it seems that he still holds a grudge, and external governments took advantage of this to launch a plot that will destabilize the government. The Minister of Security also revealed that those arrested were interrogated deeply, and they provided crucial information about the depth of the plot and the plans carried out by those in the plot. Now, what you are about to hear is so evil and wicked and will shock you to the bones. Remember how recently Burkina Faso suffered from several attacks from jihadist groups and how these jihadist groups were successful in their attacks? Well, those arrested revealed that those jihadist attacks were orchestrated by their group. Imagine that. According to them, it was part of their plans to contact terrorist groups and work with them to carry out violent attacks against civilians and government institutions. The shocking part is that the recent massacre in Barcelona, the town that houses the last standing military force between terrorist groups and the capital city, Ouagadougou, where more than 309 people were killed and many more injured, was part of their plot. But that's not all. The plotters also revealed that they planned to target the presidential palace, a drone site, the Ouagadougou airport, and military positions in Mangodara before they were caught. This is evil. The Burkinabè military and the government of Ibrahim Traoré have been stretched thin, working hard, and finding solutions to the terrorist problem, which has claimed thousands of lives. And yet some Burkinabè citizens, military personnel, and politicians are behind the scene, destroying everything. These people deliberately contacted JNIM, one of the most dangerous terrorist groups that have been terrorizing the Sahel region for some years now, gave them information and helped them launch attacks against their own citizens, leading to the death of many and many more wounded. Their plan, no doubt, was to ensure that the terrorist attacks in Burkina Faso increase while Traoré is in power, so that they can create the narrative that President Traoré is not good enough to deal with the insecurity and should be removed from power. It's the same tactic that wants to be applied in removing President Traoré from power. You know, fighting insecurity is one of the major reasons Traoré took over power. So the plan was to make it seem as if Traoré is not competent enough to deal with the insecurity by increasing the number of attacks launched against the country. If the destabilization plan was not exposed, a time will come when even the citizens of Burkina Faso that have pledged their support to President Traoré would begin to withdraw their support. And that will be the time when those plotters orchestrate a coup that would remove Traoré from power. Now, did you observe that most of the attacks in recent times have been targeted towards the Burkinabè military? A lot of soldiers have been killed and suffered severe injury as a result of these attacks. This was also part of their plans. So they didn't just want to turn the citizens against Traoré and his administration, but also turn the soldiers against him. With more military lives lost, it might lead to a mutiny because some of the soldiers would feel that Traoré is incapable of defending them and protecting them. What an evil plan.
It was to the point where even Air France, the freaking airline, said, oh, we're going to suspend our flights. Our captain said, suspend those flights indefinitely. Don't come back. What do you mean? Don't come back. The hell? And then tonight, France is in complete darkness. No electricity. They're in darkness.
To understand why Captain Ibrahim Traoré wants France out, we need to go back in history. Like many African nations, Burkina Faso was once a French colony. After gaining independence in 1960, France continued to exert control through economic, military, and political influence. Leaders like Thomas Sankara, a revolutionary who tried to free Burkina Faso from French dominance, were taken down in what many believe was a foreign-backed coup. Fast forward to today, and the same neocolonial grip still exists, something Captain Traoré is determined to end. One of the main reasons Traoré opposed France is its military presence in Burkina Faso. For years, French troops have been stationed in the country under the pretense of fighting terrorism. But instead of bringing security, terrorism has only worsened. Many Burkinabè believe that France has failed to protect them, or even worse, that it benefits from the instability. This frustration boiled over, leading Captain Traoré to expel French forces and military personnel from Burkina Faso. Beyond security, Traoré wants economic independence. Burkina Faso, like many West African countries, still uses the CFA franc, a currency controlled by France. This system keeps Africa economic dependent on their former colonizers. Captain Traoré is following the footsteps of leaders like Mali's Assimi Goïta and Niger's Abdourahmane Tiani, who are all pushing to break free from French economic control. His goal? To empower Burkina Faso's economy, encourage local industries, and stop the exploitation of resources by foreign powers. With France out, many wonder who is Burkina Faso turning to? The answer is clear. New allies. Traoré has been strengthening ties with Russia, Turkey, and other non-Western nations. This partnership offers Burkina Faso military support and economic cooperation without the heavy-handed influence that France has had for decades. This shift is a part of a larger movement across Africa, nations standing up to Western influence and reclaiming their sovereignty. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not acting alone. He has massive public support. Across Burkina Faso, people see him as a symbol of resistance and self-determination. His vision for a self-reliant, sovereign Burkina Faso resonates with many who are tired of foreign interference. But challenges remain. Will Traoré succeed in his mission, or will external pressure try to stop him? One thing is certain, Africa is waking up, and leaders like Traoré are leading the charge. The fight for true independence is not over. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's actions are reshaping Burkina Faso's future, and the world is watching. What do you think? Will Burkina Faso finally break free from French influence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.